I'm here with Chris Strong at HABCO Manufacturing, one of R.E.D's approved refrigeration manufacturers. Now, I got to tell you, Chris, one of my favorite things about being here is the fact that I drove 20 minutes from our Toronto office, which is not something that many people could say. Manufacturing in every sector has gone overseas, and you're here in Canada with a made in Canada approach. So thanks for having me.
Thank you, Mario.
Why don't you tell me a little bit about HABCO?
I'd be happy to. So HABCO's been around for about 65 years. We started in the manufacturing beverage dispensing equipment, like soda fountains for the big beverage guys like Coca-Cola. And we actually got approached by Coke probably about 45 years or so ago now, because they were really struggling to find a quality-made glass door merchandise of their product in the industry, and they had all sorts of issues with supply and reliability and whatnot. And because of the reliability of our design and the quality of what we were already building for them, they asked us to convert that technology and put it into a glass door reach-in refrigerator. And so, of course, we agreed to do that, and we didn't look back. Shortly after that, we got completely out of the dispensing business, and today we've taken that line of glass door merchandise, we've expanded it into food service, pharmacy, still do beverage, pet specialty, and microwave.
But it's always merchandise.
Always stand up, not always merchandises, but always stand up reach it. We do glass swing doors, sliders, and steel solid doors, insulated all.
Yeah. So what you do well?
It's, we decided that we stick to what we believe is an important competency of what's really bringing value to the market. And so, by keeping the scope of the product focused on those reach-ins, we think that we're building a cost-effective, high-quality product that offers the longest lifetime profit ownership in the industry.
Want to show me why your units are better?
Absolutely, let's go.
Great. So what do we have here, Chris?
Okay. So the first major point of difference with HABCO is what we call cassette technology. What you're looking at here is one of our cassettes. The major point of difference with this design versus what most of our competitors in the industry are using is they have what's called a split system, where the refrigeration unit is literally split from inside of the top of the cooler, running copper all the way down into the bottom of the cooler. The benefit to cassette is that it's completely self-contained. If the cassette itself fails or any component thereon, it can literally be removed from the cooler in as little as 5 or 10 minutes, and it doesn't require any special fuel. It's literally a Phillips screwdriver and 4 screws. This thing pops out. You slide a new one in, and you're back in business in 10 minutes.
So just to be clear, at the bottom of the unit, you have the cassette, you pull one out, you put a new one in,
and you're back in business.
And you're back in business.
So it's amazing. It's really, it's a great feature for anybody who wants maximum uptime and reliability. But beyond the warranty period, it also keeps costs dramatically lower. So if you were to look at, for example, a compressor failure on a unit like this, not including the probably week or longer that it's going to take to repair it, a compressor repair in Canada is probably going to cost you something in the neighborhood of about $1,200+. You could literally buy this cassette for not much more than that.
And you have a whole
you've got the entire engine is completely replaced.
And the rest of the refrigeration unit stays there.
Yeah. So it's serviceability is the number one thing. The other major benefit of cassette is it extends the lifespan of the product. So we always talk about lifetime cost of ownership. Imagine if you buy the cooler up front in the cassette technology, and at the end of 8 or 10 years it's getting tired. Maybe some of the components here are starting to fail. With a split system, 9 out of 10 times you're going to take that entire cooler, you're going to throw it in the trash, you're going to replace it at whatever that 10-year down the road cost of a brand new cooler is. With cassette, you're literally back in business with a unit that's going to give you another 10 years of service for less than half the price of the brand new cooler. So from lifetime cost of ownership, what we always remind customers is when you buy the unit, that's only the first time they pay.
Yeah.
In the long run, something like this is going to save you ample dollars.
Yeah. And let alone the fact that, Canada's a big country. A lot of our dealers are dealing with remote parts of the country. So being able to do this is a
Absolutely.
huge advantage.
Yeah, we place a lot of these units that you set in mining camps where the availability of service technicians is extremely limited.
Right.
And even if you could get a guy up there and he's probably a week or 2 out, well, what do you do for refrigeration in the interim? What we recommend in those cases, and again, it's a very cost-effective redundancy solution, is to send it to set up there as a backup. So if the unit fails, you're back in business in 10 minutes.
Swap it out.
Yeah.
Explain this thing.
So here are a couple of major feature differences. This is what's called a drum spiral condenser. This is the hot side of the refrigeration system. By comparison, again, to our competitors, most of their condenser coils look a lot like our evaporator coil here, which is what's called fin-on-tube. Fin-on-tube has spacing that's typically only about 2 or 3 millimeters between the fins. As the air is drawn through the system, the hair and the fluff and dust and everything builds up on it. With a drum spiral, the primary point of difference is that the gaps between the fins are massive. Most of the debris passes right through these and it doesn't clog up. The consequence of a clogged condenser a condenser coil is a failed compressor where the system will eventually overheat and it'll die. We found that these coils are so effective that we actually started building them about 4 years ago into freezers that are purpose-built for the pet industry. And you can imagine pet is the absolute most demanding retail environment that you can put refrigeration into because of all the air and the grooming operations.
Right. Yeah.
So that's the first thing. The second is what we call a coated coil. A lot of our competitors in the industry, particularly the offshore products, they're essentially building what was designed as a beverage merchandiser, and they're selling it as a food service cooler. They use a standard non-coated coil in those units. The big difference between beverage products and food service is that you're putting raw foods that have a natural bacteria element to them that gets into the air circulation inside of the cabinet. As that gets drawn into the evaporator coil, it'll start to rot the copper fittings on the end. If you look at the end of this thing, each one of these loops here represents 2 brazed joints and 2 possible points of failure.
Right.
We have literally seen uncoated coils in food service applications. They will fail within 5 to 7 years, long before you're expecting your cooler to give up the ghost. And so again, I could tell you unequivocally, if I were in the food service business today, I would not buy a freezer in particular, but I also wouldn't buy a food service cooler that I'm storing raw foods in if it didn't have a coated coil. To me, that would be an absolute must because you're just throwing your money away otherwise.
It's the little things. I also noticed these sleeves over here.
Yeah, so if you look down, I don't know if you can get a shot down in there. Right at the bottom there, that black space is the condensate tray. So byproduct of refrigeration is condensation. That water finds itself down into that tray. Every manufacturer has to have a solution to evaporate that water, otherwise it would just become overwhelmed and it'd be all over the floor. There's 2 common types of evaporation systems in the market. There's hot gas, which is what you see here, where we're taking the hot gas out of the condenser and we're recycling it down through that pan where it warms the water up and it accelerates the evaporation. The second is an electric element that goes down in there that some of our competitors use.
I've had elements, and then when they fail, it's a nightmare.
Yeah, we've seen electric elements fail in 2 to 3 years, just depending on the composition and the quality of the product. Major point of difference, and this is actually a HABCO patented feature, is we use what's called a stainless steel condensate system. Well, if you look down in here, you can see that we've actually sleeved the stainless steel where it passes through, or sleeved the copper with stainless steel where it passes through the water. And the benefit of that, again, is no corrosion, it won't die. If you're running raw copper through that water system the way that most of our competitors who have hot gas systems do, the consequence, again, is going to be corrosion and failure, and your unit's now dead, and you're into some really expensive repair.
Amazing. It's the little things, right?
Yeah.
Thermostat?
The glycol bottle probe and drain tube feeder is another thing I'd like to show you. We just have to go down the aisle here.
So here we have a cooler with the back panel off. And what's special about
So this is what we call a glycol bottle probe. This is our temperature sensing solution. It was actually born out of the pharmaceutical industry where the CDC and Health Canada focus on product integrity and temperature control. And the way that this essentially works is that the temperature probe, which is that black thing that you see there, is situated inside of a propylene glycol solution. It acts as a buffering agent so that it's representing what we call core product temperature as opposed to ambient air temperature. And now what that essentially does for the unit is, one, is it stops a lot of unnecessary cycling on and off, because it's triggering the control to add cold to the unit only when it senses that the core product temperature is rising, as opposed to when the ambient air temperature in the cabinet has changed. If you can imagine a scenario like a busy restaurant or a storefront where you've got a lot of door opening, you're losing all of that cold air, the unit's just going to keep cycling on and off, which again, it wears your compressors out, it consumes a lot of energy. But the most important thing is product integrity, that with this, it's going to maintain a much tighter temperature range, because it's only going to cycle based on fluctuations in the core product temperature as opposed to the cabinet air temperature. As I said, we started using these in pharmaceutical, but about 5 years ago, we found it was such a successful technology that we've actually integrated it into every single model that we built.
Amazing. Okay, so it's about the little things, and we're in front of a freezer here. So what's inside that tube right there?
Yeah, so this was an absolute game changer when we completely redesigned our freezer lineup in 2021 to serve a couple of specific markets. And one of the things, or the complaints that came out of that, is customers were telling us one of the issues with pretty much every other freezer brand that they've worked with, it's an issue that they're plagued with, is that the drain tube would constantly freeze up on the unit. And that's that curved piece. I don't know if you want to open the door there and take a close-up. That's the curved piece right here. If you look closely on the inside of that clear tube, there's a filament that runs down there that's a drain tube heater. What that's essentially doing is, when the water that accumulates into the evaporator coil in the upper part of the unit, that eventually turns to ice. Every 6 hours or so, it goes through a defrost cycle where it turns the ice back into water, and it drains it down that tube, down into that condensate pan that we spoke about earlier.
Right.
In our competitors' units, that drain tube heater is only running during the defrost cycle, which is effective for a while, but inevitably what ends up happening is that the ice below the heater starts to build up in the tube, and it'll slowly find its way back up until it eventually overwhelms the evaporator coil, and it causes a system overheat. It can kill your compressor completely. If it doesn't kill it, you're at least into a nuisance defrost, where you're going to call the technician, and he's going to say, you got to take everything out of that freezer and let it melt down for 24 hours, then put it back in. What the difference is because of the type of compressor that we're using, which is called a variable speed compressor, that is a much more energy efficient system. Instead of passing that energy efficiency through in the forms of our efficiency standards, what we do is we return that back into operating the drain tube heater 24/7. So that heater is always running a little bit of warmth down that line all day, every day, 24/7. The big advantage is that we don't experience the frequency of those drain tube freeze-ups that are.
How long did that element last?
Literally years and years. It's a low-cost item if it ever does fail, but you should realistically get 4, 5, 6 years out of one before you have to replace it.
Okay, and you were mentioning variable speed. So
another big difference is our competitors use what's called a standard reciprocating compressor. It has 2 speeds, on and off. When it's on, it's running at max RPM, and when it's off, it's off. Well, you can imagine if you drove your car going from light to light in first gear at max RPM, what's going to happen to the engine?
that's what you do in Toronto traffic.
Yeah. Yeah. So you're eventually going to wear out the motor doing that, right? A variable speed compressor works exactly as its name. It only runs at an RPM rate that is necessary to create the amount of cold in the cabinet that the control is telling you to run for. So they actually run for a longer period of time on average, but because they're running at a much lower RPM rate, again, they're more energy efficient and they last a lot longer because they're not enduring all of those hard starts and stops that reciprocating compressors experience.
Right. Okay, so let's talk about stock, warranty, service, price point.
Okay. Well, as you can see, we've got plenty of stock in-house and ready to ship. Our policy for in-stock 4 models is 72 hours turnaround for LTL, 2 weeks for full truckloads. Got plenty of product in stock ready to ship, so give us a call and we're ready to go.
Okay. And warranty?
Warranty, 3-year parts and labor, 5-year compressor. The one thing that I would really want to emphasize, though, particularly in the Canadian marketplace, being a Canadian manufacturer, is that this facility here houses, on average, about $4.5 million worth of parts, sub-assemblies, you name it. And so we've always got parts or in stock and ready to ship. Our mandate, again, is to get parts out inside of 24 hours. Obviously, we realize downtime for a customer means that they can't do business, and so it's our mandate and mission to get them up and running as quick as possible.
Yeah. Okay. And last but not least, price point.
Price point. So, HABCO has never been what I would call a price leader in the market, but we do see ourselves as a value leader. And a value leader in our minds is comprised of building an exceptional, reliable, long-lasting product backed by a great warranty and service experience. And basically built to last. What we talked about is lifetime cost of ownership. We're typically positioned below the top priced products in the market, but we're definitely not selling on par with auto products. But like I said, I can't emphasize enough that what we pay for the unit up front is only the first time that you pay. And, we can show you the math that over the lifetime of a unit, the cost of a HABCO will be substantial.
It's amazing. Well, thanks for the tour.
Well, thank you.
The made in Canada approach to refrigeration, and it's amazing to see. Thank you very much.
Thanks very much.
Cheers.